This is Representative Wayne Christian, and today I want to visit with you about an issue I call "There's a gorilla that nobody sees in the room." You've heard that example before, but let me tell you, in the state of Texas and in our nation, there is one gorilla that's causing a lot of problems, and I rarely, if ever, hear any of the other politicians or leaders or any press, media speak about the gorilla that I'm talking about today. Do you realize that there are three different issues, basically our Texas Constitution, ask for those of us in the Texas legislature to fund each year? And believe me, being in the legislature in Texas, in a citizen legislature, where we come home and work 18 months and go once every 2 years for 5.5 months up to Austin and come together as a legislature, we have one sole purpose and three constitutional mandates. One is to fund public education. And public education by our forefathers in all of these years has been the #1 expenditure of your tax dollar and mine in the state of Texas. Number 2 is law enforcement, to protect us and our families in the state of Texas. Number 3 is transportation, your roads and bridges, and way to keep transportation moving, our capitalist system in the state of Texas, and that's transportation. So education, law enforcement, and transportation are the three constitutional mandates. When we go to Austin, our duty is to pass a budget basically centered around those three different issues. And to this date, the #1 expenditure in the state has been public education. But let me bring something for you just to consider. What if there was a gorilla in the room that was taking as much money as almost those three items put together, and was taking away from the opportunity an item that was taking away pay raises for teachers, additional funding for our children in public education, to improve our roads and bridges and make our transportation better? What if there was a gorilla that was taking away from our ability to provide our law enforcement officials across this state with better funding to protect us in, down on the borders of the state of Texas, where the drug lords are making unbelievable attempts to come and harm, kill, steal, rob, and bring their drugs across the borders in Texas? What if we have something that's keeping us from putting those additional dollars to help and protect our families in the state of Texas? Well, there is. And that gorilla is a non-constitutional item that was never put in place for the state of Texas or for us in the legislature to fund. But it's something we want to do. We are a compassionate people, and we want to help people that are in need. And that issue, you may guess, that is the gorilla in the room that nobody talks about in presenting these budgets, or how we can cut back, looking at this session, almost perhaps $15 to $20 billion shortage of money. Now, what if we could get that money, that $15 billion to $20 billion projected shortage of dollars in this next session? What if there was something in the room, that gorilla, that was holding all that money in their pocket, and we weren't even attempting to go after it? Well, folks, it's human services, Medicaid, and welfare. Now, folks, we're compassionate people. Indeed, I'm not saying or advocating that we don't want to take care of those in need, but we have changed the direction in this country, and we've moved it to a situation that we don't even talk about the fact that under Obamacare, we've taken, listen to the stats. Back when I first ran for office and started serving in the Texas legislature, probably about 1/4 of the state budget was going to human services. And guess what? At this time, 40+% goes to human services. With Obamacare, the state of Texas will add something over $20 billion over the next few years. And folks, when we add that, for the first time in Texas history, a non-constitutional item will supersede, take over public education as the #1 expenditure of your tax dollar and mine. It was never the thought nor the desires of our forefathers that we should spend the majority of money not helping our children achieve the American dream, not helping give them the education, not providing teachers, public schools with the type dollars to make sure that our children are the best and brightest in the world, to make sure that their future is better. Between the budget and the federal government that's coming against our children and their future, between taking over the #1 expenditure from public education, then my notice to you is that I don't have all the answers, but I think it's irresponsible not to understand that gorilla in the room that will soon supersede our children's future for the best education, that will take over protecting our families by law enforcement, that is preventing us providing the transportation to make the economy of this state the greatest in the nation. It's a discussion that needs to be made, and those of us that attempt to attack welfare and human services many times are called hateful, are called inconsiderate, incompassionate. So we need to address that subject and quit hiding that gorilla in the room.